It is such a great honor to be receiving the CAOT BC OT of the Year Award. Thank you very much. It's been an incredible journey so far. It's been like an amazing adventure where every day you're experiencing something new, exciting, and rewarding. So you know that human behavior is the product of learning experiences made available by planned and unplanned situations. Every situation can be seen as presenting potential opportunities, if you can recognize them and then take action on them. When I started becoming aware of all the unplanned events occurring in my life, I also became more aware of the opportunities that were out there. My mom was actually an occupational therapist. She trained soon after World War II, and she worked in army hospitals in England, rehabilitating the injured soldiers. She immigrated to Canada in 1952 and married and then had 4 children very quickly. She never actually practiced OT again, but she did go and visit people in the community all the time and who had disabilities, and she always seemed to take me along. I became fascinated with meeting children with cerebral palsy, reading books about Helen Keller, and hearing stories about people with spinal cord injuries. But tragically, my mother died when I was 16. This was a serious, unplanned event that changed everything in my life. So soon after, as high school came to an end, I was focused on becoming a famous actress. But then I was presented with this opportunity to attend an OT school up in northern England in Newcastle upon Tyne. I knew nothing about OT. I had no other plans. I saw an opportunity ahead, and so off I went. The training lasted for 3 years. I absolutely loved the program. I loved every placement that we did. I made tons of new friends, and I realized that I had totally found my career. I found a job and I moved all my belongings down to Bristol. I found a flat, I found some roommates, and then I started my first job as an OT. It was in a large teaching hospital in Bristol, funded by the National Health Service. At that time, OTs were actually at the bottom rung of the medical hierarchy. It was not a glamorous job. Within 2 years, I was completely unhappy. I disliked my superiors. I did not want to be working as an OT, and I was ready for a career change. What would I do next? Well, after several failed attempts at things, I headed back to BC, being very uninspired about working as an OT, but realizing that I had this under my belt and I needed to get a job. After many applications, multiple interviews, resume rewrites, discussions with my family, I reluctantly took the only job offered to me. It was at Pearson Hospital. Pearson was a long-term care hospital for young adults. It also had a polio ward. I worked my first week, and on that Friday night, as I was driving home from work, I was in a car accident. Another unplanned event. Or was it an opportunity? The accident left me hospitalized for 5 weeks with a dislocated hip, missing teeth, soft tissue injuries, multiple scrapes, cuts, and bruises. But I did return to Pearson Hospital several months later, walking at first with crutches and then with a cane. Somehow the time spent as a patient significantly changed my interactions with my patients. I was so much more aware of their losses and their vulnerability. My work as an OT at Pearson Hospital turned out to be a pivotal part of my career. I learned about assistive technology, ventilators, sip and puff wheelchairs, iron lungs, turning beds, mouth sticks, Morse code, suction units, and many other fascinating devices. Within 2 years, I had moved to a supervisory position with 10 staff under me. I spent my clinical time working on the polio ward, which introduced me to 6 amazing individuals. The passion for my work as an OT grew every single day. I had the amazing opportunity of working with 6 young men who were destined to live their lives forever in Pearson Hospital. They had all sustained spinal cord injuries, and they were in their early 20s, the same age as I was at that time, paralyzed from the neck down and requiring ventilators to breathe. They told me that their rehab goals were to move out of this institution, get married, get a job, work, live independently, and own a house. Same goals as most of us have. These seem like impossible goals, but with hard work, numerous community stakeholders working together, and myself, we actually made it happen. It took about 5 years. These men moved out to a specially built shared care apartment in False Creek, which we called Creekview. From there, they got work, they bought houses, they married, and they had children. Their disabilities did not stand in their way. I was so empowered by this experience. I too left Pearson and started a full-time position on the spinal cord injury unit at Shaughnessy Hospital. I was passionate about working with people with spinal cord injuries. Another unplanned event happened. I met Neil Squire, who was a patient at that time. He was 20 years old and severely injured in a car accident. He had gone to school with my brother. My time at Shaughnessy Hospital lasted 6 months, as I just could not handle the structured day-to-day routine, and I was unable to provide the type of services and the range of supports that I felt these people so badly needed. I quit my job with nowhere to go, but with lots of passion to do something different and to find a means to improve the lives that had been saved. So I had met Neil's cousin, Bill Cameron, who was trying to do something different to change the lives of people like Neil and Neil himself and open doors of opportunity. I'd been watching Bill work, knowing that he was passionate about making changes, but he just did not know how to work in the healthcare settings. So I wrote a letter to him, basically suggested that he needed to have an OT to make the project work. I said that I would be just a great help to him. He stated that he had never been approached by anyone like that, and he hired me. Unfortunately, Neil passed away in 1984. So we started the Neil Squire Society. I'm just completing my 36th year with the Neil Squire Society. There has never been a dull moment. The highlight of, one of the highlights is a project that I helped to organize for Expo 86. We flew numerous people from across Canada who had severe disabilities to Vancouver to participate in Expo, demonstrating computer access with Morse code, speech recognition, robotic control, etc. Many of these people were living in institutions. They had never left the institution, they had never flown, they had never been out of the city that they were in, and we brought them all out here. We put them up at UBC and in accommodation there, and we moved them back and forth to Expo every day, and they had these just incredible experience. I still to this day don't know how we pulled it off. By 1995, I too had a house and 2 small children and a husband who was working shift work. I was petrified about returning to work, so I decided to figure out a creative way to manage child care. I started up a private OT company just on my own, with just me as the employee, primarily assisting individuals with spinal cord injury transition from the rehab program out into the community. I continued to work part-time at Neil Squire during that period, and I would come into work on the days that my husband was on days off. So we were fortunate that we didn't need to have any daycare. But I did come back to Neil Squire on a full-time basis in 2011 to work on another specialty project where we were providing computers and assistive technology to individuals all over BC. So over the years since then, the projects have changed, but we're still focusing on providing ergonomics and assistive technology to people with disabilities all over BC. What is remarkable that I've also been able to continue to provide support through these programs to some of the clients that were a part of the Creekview project. So I've seen them really through my whole lifespan of being an OT. It's been just incredible. It's so extraordinary to support these individuals who were once thought to be unsafe to leave Pearson Hospital due to their disabilities. And now, who would have thought 35 years later they would be married with children, living in their own homes and working full-time. It's just shocking. So during my initial 16 years with Neil Squire, I was actually the only occupational therapist, but now I work with an incredibly talented and dedicated group of OTs who share the same enthusiasm for the work that I do. My colleagues have amazed me with their similar passion, understanding of the principles of providing OT services and the delivery of very high quality services. It's like being in a huge family of like-minded people. You all deserve the award as well. I've always said that I will change my job as soon as I'm not fulfilled with the work that I'm doing. That has not happened yet. I'm not sure if it will and whether I'll ever be able to retire. But I have also not only carried out work with Neil Squire. Other roles that I've played is early on in my career, I volunteered for BCSOT, the BC Society of Occupational Therapists. Incredible way to meet other OTs in the province and to share our varied and interesting experiences. I also have been teaching at SFU's Rehab and Disability Management Diploma Program for almost 20 years now. I've provided clinical placements for many OTs and rehab assistants. I've also been a part of a phenomenal group of OTs and physios who specialize in spinal cord injury in the US. We meet once a year in a very informal meeting where we can just share our clinical knowledge and experience of working with people with spinal cord injuries. And there have been many, many other experiences I've had over my years as an OT. I began my training as an OT in 1976. We focused on arts and crafts and activities as therapeutic tools. I learned pottery, basket weaving, printmaking, etc. We did not study any theoretical models, research design, or assistive technology. In fact, we didn't even know what personal computers were at that time. By taking advantage of the many unplanned opportunities that came my way, I've ended up having just an amazingly fulfilling and satisfying career. What I love about being an OT is that I feel like I'm doing something that makes a change, even if it's with just one person at a time. I'm so amazed at the power of the human spirit to adapt to the changes it is presented with. As an OT, I enjoy that I can assist the individual with that adaptation process. Being an occupational therapist has been incredibly rewarding. Many thanks to everyone who has been part of my OT journey, and good luck on yours.